Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with Pro Wrestling Logic, and we are back with another edition of the Superstars of Wrestling review series, which we started earlier today. Probably going to be able to do a good bit of these today. Don't have as many clients as normal on a Monday. Many of my clients have moved to later in the week because Monday seems to be difficult for them right now. In any event, we are going to touch on the April 25th 1992 version of Superstars of Wrestling, and I'm really enjoying watching these shows again. I have not seen these events probably at least in 10 years, if not longer. The 93 stuff they have up, I haven't seen since it originally aired. I had collected for a while through tape trading and the like. I had collected trying to remember now. The let's see, 87 through probably nine. Well, let's see, 87 through 92. I think I had at one point between my own private collection that I had taped as a kid, and then doing some tape trading along the way. But I haven't seen the 93 stuff since it originally aired, so I'll look forward to that when we get there. Anyway, Wrestling Superstars, April 25th, 1992. So then McMahon uses some bathroom humor about how Flair is having an easy going to open the show. Mr. Perfect is with Flair during the opening match, therefore he's not in the broadcast booth. Ric Flair versus Ron Cumberland. Typical Flair squash match. You know, it's interesting to me that even in squashes, Flair looks crisp with every motion, every moment, including but not limited to the lockups that he does. I think guys today have lost the art of the collar elbow tie up, make it look snug and pull it in there, and then you give a really good give a really good accounting of yourself within the first 30 seconds of a match. And I know the modern wrestlers are like, none of that matters, but you have to assume going into any match that there's at least one person in the audience who has never seen wrestling before. And if they see something sloppy, if your head's not in the game, it's going to influence how they view you as a talent. Not only that, though, it may influence how they view the company you work for as a whole. So independent talent, make every move count, please. Anyway, one-sided match. Interesting that we see something as simple as a lockup, and Flair uses several chops as well as a back suplex and the figure four for the victory. We then go to the update details of goings on at WrestleMania. They have a concert, they have meet and greets, they have a breakfast or brunch, they have various other things. So all the way going back to 1992, they're trying something akin to the fan access type concept, and I really think it's undervalued. That goes back, what, 92, 2000, 10 years, 2012, 20 years, 2022 would be 30 years. So 25 plus years ago, they're still trying to connect with fans in a meaningful, one of a kind sort of way, and I think we as fans kind of forget that WWE does that really well. Try to give a once in a lifetime experience. And I think that is one thing that sometimes gets underestimated and undervalued by the internet fan. At least that's been my experience. So then we go off into, we go back off into various other things, such as, but not limited to, let's see, my notes seem to have frozen here on my screen. And since I was multitasking when I was watching the program, I do need them. British Bulldog versus Kevin Kruger. It's amazing how bloated and just overextended the Bulldog looks here, even in 92. If you go back and look at something like the original Wrestling Classic from 85, or British Bulldog in Stampede, or even British Bulldog in, say, 86 during his tag team championship reign with the Dynamite Kid, completely different body type, and it really is unsettling that guys during this era and during the peak era, the original rock and wrestling, post rock and wrestling era, would put their bodies through so much for what? Just to get a little extra money, just to look bigger because the philosophy in New York at the time was bigger is better. I've never understood the philosophy. I mean, I understand if your boss is telling you, "Hey, go out there and get bigger." Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but at the same time, is it really worth risking your life over? Anyway, can't take away the athletic ability from the Bulldog. Um, Basic match: arm drags and a hanging vertical suplex. Great power by the Bulldog to and coordination to put that hanging vertical suplex up there. He must have had him up there for at least 30 seconds or better. And then a power slam that he just hulks him up for the victory. World Bodybuilding Federation commercial. It's clear that you can see McMahon is extremely happy that this place exists. There's a certain life and exuberance that comes through his voice when he's talking about this concept. The Beverly Brothers, Blake and Bo, which I still to this day cannot tell apart. For those who can tell them apart, please comment in the comments below so that I'm a little more educated than I am now. One-sided match with the Genius along with them. Beverly Brothers one of the Beverly Brothers hits a beautiful power slam. It's tremendous looking, and they use the old Midnight Express drape across the rope and jump on the back spot. And then followed by Greetings from Shaker Heights. That finish, my gosh, I don't think I've ever seen somebody take that and have it end well. Do not try this at home, folks. In the middle of that, we see an inset promo, and basically it's the same inset promo from last week where they called the Legion of Doom sissies. They paint one of the enhancement talents post-match with yellow, I guess what appears to be war paint, and they again call the Legion of Doom the Legion of Sissies. We're off to Sean Mooney in the event center for a Legion of Doom promo, oddly enough. And they say it's time to rewrite the history books, and that's said by Paul Ellering. Beverly Brothers get pedicures, and the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom, get their they rip their nails off. That's what one of them said anyway. Says that the Beverly Brothers are a stepping stone to the World Tag Team Championships, and that then we move on to the Repo Man. Repo Man, really interesting. I mentioned in the last episode his facials are tremendous and worth going out of the way to see. This is true here as well. Repo Man says that the government needs to do something for the economy. Now, wait a minute. So that's what? 92, 2002, 2012. That's 28 years, 27, 28 years ago. They're still talking about how the U.S. economy sucks, and yet there are people that'll still battle the tribe. The U.S. is the greatest place in the world. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad place to be. I'm just saying, take off the rose-colored glasses. The U.S. has always had larger problems than it knew what to do with, going all the way back to the 90s. Anyway, Repo Man says he can do his part to help. Says that he is willing to do that and help by taking. Says that it makes him feel bad when he takes from a family that doesn't have. But at the same time, he says that if they have nothing, that's not his problem. And he could be rich if he just takes and takes and takes. We then move on to a fresh vignette from Crush, incoming in a few months here. We see a childhood crush sitting down at the dinner table, pouring himself a glass of milk and completely crushing the receptacle that it is in. And then he calls out Crush. He calls out Skinner. He calls out the Repo Man. He calls out Sid Justice. Says he wonders what he can do as an adult with no parameters on himself. Shawn Michaels with Sensational Sherry versus a enhancement talent. And in the middle of the segment, we see Bret Hart with an inset promo says he's not going to let Shawn Michaels take the championship and tarnish it. Says that he is going to make sure that the championship retains its dignity. Michaels uses a axe handle from the ring apron, as well as a back suplex, a super kick for the victory. Interestingly enough, the super kick not his finish at this point in 92, opting more for the delayed back suplex. Not sure when the transition is into the super kick being the finish, but it's not here yet in April of 1992. You can see even in that stage that he has a main event star quality to him, does Shawn Michaels. All right, then we move into an awkward promo by Kerry Von Erich in the event center. Basically, he says that everybody's about greed and power and glory and fame and all that stuff, and he's not about any of that. He's not even really about championships, but he wants to be a champion anyway. He says that championship is about honor and dignity, and that's what Kerry Von Erich is about. Again, he either is underproduced or completely out of his tree. Just really sad to watch Kerry in this state, especially knowing he's a month away from his passing. The Nasty Boys up next with a mini promo of them. They say they're mean, nasty, and rude. They're looking to get back the tag team championship in the near future, and that every team is going eventually to Pity City. I was never really a Nasty Boys fan. I actually have an interesting story that I'll share here. Met the Nasty Boys. Now keep in mind, I am a wheelchair-bound individual, and they were doing a Special Olympics fundraiser. Now I was a Special Olympian at one point, but came away from that. I didn't fit in there because I was too intellectually together. Anyway, I still went to the charitable fundraiser, and it was the first time in my young life that I had a chance to meet some wrestlers. This was in the summer of 1992. I actually later met a bunch of guys in the fall of the same year, but that story doesn't pertain to right now. Anyway, the Nasty Boys were the individuals sent to represent the World Wrestling Federation at this Special Olympics Carnival. Now imagine going around a large arena. This was the Providence Civic Center. They allowed us to use the floor for the fundraiser. That arena, just to put things in perspective, can hold about 14,000 people for most events. So the arena floor is pretty large. And they had boxers and football players and baseball players, and even the local independent wrestling organization set up a table, various vendors and whatnot. And so the Nasty Boys were probably, I'd say, the top 3 to 5 guests on the event, only behind the New England Patriots and a local boxer. And anyway, so I'm a big kid, right? Like, in the sense of, like, I'm really excited that I'm going to meet famous people that have been on TV. So they're on an elevated stage. There's about, probably, let's say 3 to 6 steps on both sides of this elevated platform stage. And I'm sitting at the bottom of the stage with the friend that had brought me to the event. And Knobs looks down, and he sees that there's a person in a wheelchair sitting there. And then somebody goes up onto the stage and says, hey, this kid would like an autograph and picture. And so then he said, okay, we can do that. And then somebody had to lift me up onto the stage. Took 2 or 3 people. Everybody grabbed a part of the wheelchair and, up onto the stage. So I'm up on the stage probably 20 feet away from where Knobs and Sags are sitting. And I hear the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm telling this story because it has to make you laugh at the ignorance of this. So I'm sitting about 20 feet away. And while they were waiting to get me up on the stage. Maybe about a dozen people or so had gotten in line. So I'm waiting patiently, and I'm, like, wow, I'm near stars and famous people and all this stuff. So they get done with the autographs that they got to do, and so sorry about that. Acid reflux is no fun, fans, and I'm not gonna edit things out. I don't believe in editing unless absolutely necessary, unless you're doing like a finished product for like some large national organization. Look, people cough, people sneeze, much to the chagrin of Vince McMahon. People stutter. They have moments where they don't speak naturally, and I think part of the appeal of YouTube is, hey, we can actually be human. Anyhow, so back to the story. I'm sitting there, and Knobs looks over, and somebody goes up to him and reminds him that I need an autograph. And without missing a beat, he doesn't look up. He says, tell him to get up and walk over here, and we'll take a picture. Okay, now, I can't walk. I am in a wheelchair. Yet here's this very intelligent wrestler who's obviously had too many concussions telling a young person to get up and walk over there to take a picture at a special needs carnival event. I never looked at the Nasty Boys the same again. I still don't quite understand what happened there, but needless to say, it's one of those moments that is permanently burned in my brain for all the wrong reasons. Anyway, Sergeant Slaughter up next versus the Brooklyn Brawler. Clotheslines from Slaughter and very basic match. Shots by Slaughter and a leapfrog by the Brooklyn Brawler, which unfortunately Kurt Hennig somehow transposes the fact that the Brawler does the leapfrog and puts the leapfrog on Slaughter. Amazing that this made air as McMahon questions him and it's like, what did you say? So I'm really surprised that didn't hit the cutting room floor. In any event, the Cobra Clutch is used by Sergeant Slaughter in order to gain the victory. And then Gutbuster also used before the Cobra Clutch for that victory. Sid Justice interview. Justice looks like $1 million here. Really don't understand why he didn't go further. Maybe it's just he lost interest or whatever. But wow, 1992 Sid is a marvelous thing to look at. Kind of confused as to why they brought Harvey Wippleman out as his manager, and Harvey didn't say anything during the interview. Sid, however, says that he's mocking the Ultimate Warrior. Says that he does not need any friends like the Warrior says he needs. Says that he gave Hogan his last match and he'll do the same for the Warrior. Says that he is the master and ruler of this world. Kent Carlson and Tom Stone versus the Natural Disasters is up next. Tremendous belly-to-belly suplex by Earthquake John Tenta. Tenta we lost several years ago to bladder cancer, one of the nicest guys I've ever had the chance to talk to. Connected with him online a few years before his death, and he was nothing but gracious in exchanging emails before he passed away, and even up until his death, he was still very much involved in the fan community. Miss the big guy. Anyway, Natural Disasters with a couple double teams, another power slam by the Earthquake, and then Earthquake hits his vertical splash, a big splash by Typhoon, and a win for the Natural Disasters. Next event center segment, and Skinner says that ever since he came to the World Wrestling Federation, he has been underestimated, undervalued, and taken for granted. Says that he has mastered some things and he's going to take care of everybody. He is hungry, he is angry, and he's going to take care of everyone in his own way. Skinner is a really bizarre looking fellow looking back at it, not quite sure what they're thinking. To talk, thanks the Chiefs, he thanks the fans, he thanks the spirits, and then he basically says, that he is looking to go to the top of the World Wrestling Federation, looking to handle things to the best of his ability, and really wants to go to that next level. Then we get back to we came to the dance for, so to speak, an angle that's still stuck in my mind all these years later. And actually, when I heard that this was part of this particular event, I was super excited. The Undertaker and Berserker square off. Berserker immediately uses part of his, I guess, influence, and Mr. Fuji grabs the urn from Paul Bearer. Berserker uses his Nordic shield, nailing Bearer with it a few times, nailing the Undertaker with it a few times, and then he grabs a sword. Now, probably this is just a costume sword, it doesn't mean anything, but I remember being a preteen kid and thinking, wow, that's a nifty looking blade. And then he nails the Undertaker with the butt of it, and the Undertaker goes down, and then you see this amazing visual as John Nord lifts it high in the air and goes to harpoon the Undertaker. Undertaker just barely gets out of the way to avoid the harpooning, but he puts the sword through the mat. And somehow, just for me, the visual of the Undertaker almost getting kiboshed, almost getting shish kebabbed, and then seeing that sword go through the mat is one of those visuals that always stuck with me as a fan, and still does to this day, some 20 plus years later. Anyway, they continue to brawl around. Undertaker does sit up and do his thing, but he takes more punishment than average. And then, in what is, I consider, an amazing thing, Nord is able to roll back the blue aesthetic mats on the outside of the ring. He grabs the Undertaker, herks him up, and nails a pile driver on the concrete floor and leaves the Undertaker laying. It's too bad. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure I never got to see Undertaker and Berserker live at a live event. I was lucky enough that an extended family member would take me to the monthly World Wrestling Federation live events in my area, and so I got to see a lot of live cards, probably, I don't know, from 89 to 96-ish, when I stopped going because I didn't agree with indoor pyro. Part of it was my PTSD. Part of it was there was an incident at one of the house shows where the pyro almost caught on fire, and because of where we had to sit, it didn't feel safe. So I stopped going to WWE events for that reason in the late 90s. But I probably, oh good gosh, I bet you I went to at least 50 WWE shows and WWF shows in that time. Anyway, never got to see Taker and Berserker do battle with each other that I recall. Maybe they did, but I don't think they came to my local arena with that particular program. But would have liked to have seen that because that angle still, like I said, all these years later stuck with me. In any event, this has been Scott Golden with a Superstars of Wrestling review. Probably going to get at least one or two more in today, so stay tuned for those. If there's something you'd like to see us cover here on the channel, this channel is about you as we endeavor to get 1,000 subscribers so that we can help people out with food and other needs from the COVID pandemic. So please like, subscribe, comment below on what you'd like to hear on the channel. And until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.